this computer. All right, now I'm going to share my screen. So this is the Northern Virginia Nova Fab Lab Inkscape 3, Introduction to Inkscape 3. And I'm just going to share my screen here. We just had the discussion about the camps and about the website where you can find information on Inkscape 4. So again, just to discuss, Greg, you're the only body here at the moment. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we did last week and how you can get access to this. I'm going to give you the presentation once we finish today.
Okay.
Again, so you have that copy. And seeing as you're only person here, you can obviously leave it unmuted and just ask any questions you want to. What we did in Inkscape 1 and 2 are just shown here. And I've tried to break it down into manageable commands. So I'm doing 5 or 6 actually in each day, 7 each day or something like that. So it's a small amount of commands, but will get you through the basic drawings. And obviously, as you get more comfortable using those commands, you can then progress on to using the more complex commands and the other hundreds of other commands that are there. So we did the basic ones the first week, and then last week it was Inkscape 2, and it finished up. The challenge was to try and draw this jigsaw puzzle where, the pieces would mesh in together. So the circle was the same size as this circle right here, and you could end up with a completed jigsaw piece. At the end of today's session, what we're looking at is having a completed laser engraving ready file. All right, so that's the purpose of what I'm trying to get you to be, because this is the end of the free sessions. There is a paid session in session 4 for engineering or family consumer science, and that goes through the process of you designing something. Hang on, Eric is coming in here. So I'm glad I'm recording it, and Eric is just joining. I'll just wait for him to get in here. Hey, Eric. Let me know when you're in here. I can't see. Eric, just go ahead and unmute yourself when you're in, just to let me know you're here. If you can hear me okay. He's not in yet. Eric, can you hear me okay? Yeah, just go ahead and unmute yourself if you can hear me, and just let me know you can hear me. I'm not sure if you can or not. Okay, I'm just going to move on. Hopefully, Eric, if you can hear me okay, just unmute or put it in the chat if you can hear me, and we'll progress on. So I just started off. I just did a review of what we did last week. I'm just finishing up showing the jigsaw puzzle here, and I will give you this PowerPoint at the end of the session as well. So we're going to move on to new commands then. So we're going to work on from this week. So we'll go through a few new commands, but ultimately we're going to finish up with a lasering ready file. And I think Eric was the person who has a different laser. You have your own home laser engraver. So you have specific questions about your type of laser and the type of files that it may be useful for. So hopefully we'll answer those at the end. And again, I'll stay on here afterwards. So we'll finish at about 7:45, and I'll stay on, as long as you want to afterwards, answer any questions you have. All right, so the next command we're going to use today is this command right here. It's a star and polygon command. Now, it's going to draw some different shapes and different types of stars, and a polygon obviously has numerous sides on it. And that's what we're going to be working on. And the command is on the top, is on the left ribbon, and it's just a stars command. All right, and then you can also click on the asterisk key, which is Shift and 8 on my keyboard, and I think it is pretty common that that's the shortcut. Again, I use the clicking on the mouse. Some people who are constantly using it remember the shortcut keys and use those instead. That's a personal choice. The most important takeaway from this command is the last sentence right here. Once the command is selected, you look on the top window, top ribbon. And here I've shown it, I've taken a little snipping image of it here, and it shows you how to change from a star to a polygon and the number of sides. So right here, once you select the tool, the icon, it shows you up with a polygon just over the star, a little star shape, the number of corners, the ratio, the spoke ratio, and whether you wanted rounded points or not on the star shape. So again, you can modify and do all of those. So we're going to go ahead and draw this assignment 1 right now. Now, again, with this, the colors are not important. I don't really care what colors you choose, but I've selected a pentagon with 5 equal sides, a star with 5 equal sides, and another star with 5 equal sides. And you can see that it's different type of star. All right. So that's the process. I'm not going to worry about the size of the sheet or whatever at the moment. So I'm just going to launch my Inkscape. I did have it launched and I just turned it off there, but I'm just working off of my basic page. So I haven't changed my default template here. And we'll talk about that in a little while. So I'm going to click on the command, and here it is on the left toolbar. Now, again, it will start off drawing what I finished with the last time. So last night I finished drawing this shape. So this shape was one of the star shapes that you can move the stars and change it around to do different things. I can revert it back to a pyramid or a polygon shape, and I can convert these and I can move these shapes in back to a pyramid shape, stars. You can play with all of those to move those all around. And I've messed mine completely up now, so I'll have to revert back to the original settings again. But you can change and get a multitude of commands by dragging and dropping these. Oh, sorry, I've just drawn another one right there. So when you click on the command, you can, let me just zoom in there. So you should be able to see the pentagon command. So when you click on the screen, you should be able to come up with a command, and you should be able to click up here, the pentagon, and you can select the number of corners you want. If you want 5-sided or you want 6-sided, the rounded, I'm going to roll that down. Oh, sorry, I want to get it back to 0 here. I want to get these back to 0. Not 0, 9, 0, and the randomizer 0. So I'm back to my original pentagon shape here now. Okay. Again, I can play with the stroke. So over here is my stroke thickness, so I can change my stroke. Say I want a black on the outside stroke, and I'll change my stroke style and I'll make it a little bit thicker. Up the thickness of my stroke here. And I can change the stroke again to a blue if I wanted. So I got a little pink, or I don't know, kind of light pink pentagon.
Tim, the stroke is under object or edit view?
It's probably in your shortcut menu over here on the right, where I have it in mine right now. It's most frequently used, so it's probably over there. If not, click on Object, Fill and Stroke, and you can always use the shortcut key of Shift Control F to get
Got it. Thanks.
All right.
Yeah, why does mine keep defaulting to it being clear?
Okay, so yes, so if you go back to here, and if I click on the fill, I've selected the fill color right now. If you click on no fill, it's going to be empty. So you can see it down here in the bottom left-hand corner as well. Now, there's other shortcut keys. You can hold down the shift key and you can click on the shape and it'll change the fill color. You can select the fill color and I can change it to green. So if you want to do a short key and change the stroke color, click on hold shift and just click on the color you want and it'll change it to that. If you want to click a regular fill color, just the item is selected and just click the color you wanted as a fill. So it's a kind of a brown color now. It's a, let's click a light blue. So I've chosen a light blue color. All right. So I'm going to choose the star next. So I'm going to click on the same icon, but up at the top then I'm going to select on right here, the star shape. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Click on the pentagon again. Sorry. I'm going to draw a new shape. So I'm going to get off of that one. I'm going to get off that shape and I'm going to draw a new one. So I'm going to click here and it's drawing a pentagon again. And I'm just going to convert that to a star shape. Now you can play with the different star shapes. Just delete that one. And you can play with the numbers here. Once I select it, all right, click once to get the little sizes, the angles to change the size of it. Click it again to get it to rotate if I want to rotate it. And if I double click the shape, it comes up with these handles here, and it also comes up with my menu on the top. Now, if I change the radius of the spokes, I can get it down to 0.01. Oops, so I can go very, very big. And I can go anywhere in between. It's hard for me to see my cursor here because I've got the star pointer on it. So I can alter these. I can change it. The last one I had there was just a rounded one. So I'm just going to select it and move it up here. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to change my fill color. I'll just select the red for that. And my stroke color, I'll hold down shift and I'll choose a yellow color for it. So it gives me a sign here. And I'm going to draw another star then. So click on the star command again. And I'm just going to draw one here. I'll change the color of my fill to be blue, and I've got a gold on the outside. But this time I'm going to change the rounded curve. So the point of the star, instead of being pointed now, it's kind of a starfish shape. So it's rounded. All right. So you can play with those commands, and maybe you need it for a particular logo or you need it for something. So it's the using of the mouse and getting accustomed to changing the fill, changing the stroke, changing the colors, modifying what you need to have and what you need to create. And yes, ultimately, most people are selecting this course for Inkscape to do laser engraving, but perhaps some people want to do some basic graphic designing as well, learning whether you like it or not. So this is kind of a small introduction to that. All right. I'm just going to launch the poll. I know there's only 2 of you guys on this here, so you can feel free to say yes, or if you need more time to draw some of these. And again, I'm not too worried about the color. These are simple, drawing the things, drawing the shapes. Both of you done in polling. Awesome stuff. Just sharing the results. So both of you haven't finished. That's cool. So I'm going to move on. Next slide.
Now, one quick. I
Yes,
got
sure.
the star, and I select the star, but now, it's up at the top, I got X, Y.
Okay, so how do you, so see, I'm looking at my star. See where I'm looking at the star right here that I'm selecting right now, the red star, my little icon, my star cursor is on it. So if I click it one time, if I select the star one time, it has the arrow so I can change the size. If I click it again, it has my rotation arrows so I can rotate it.
Okay.
If I double click on it, now it pops up.
Yep, I see that now. Okay.
All right. So that's the same with every single shape. So every single shape you draw, whether it's the squares, the ellipse, the circles, if you do all of that, it gives you the options there. So it's the single click, the double click, the 2 clicks, and then the double click. So there is a difference between a 2 clicks and a double click, because the second click gives you a rotation handles, whereas the double click gives you the menu at the top here. All right. Yeah, good questions. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move on to, and again, I've tried I've personally broken these down into things that I find simpler, kind of medium, and now we're getting onto the more complex commands. And again, more complex in that they take a little bit more practice to get them right. So this one is drawing freehand curves like you're writing a signature with a pen. And if you are good at art, and you have, and again, I was discussing this with the kids last night, if you have a pad, you can buy these pads for your computer where you use something like a pen, and you can draw and you can sketch and you can create art and you can import that in and you can laser engrave that out. That's not me. If you want to do that, you can do that. I'm going to use it with the mouse shortly. The other option then is straight lines, obviously pretty straightforward, and the Bezier curves. Now, this is a Bezier curve, and I've just written down here what it is. It uses at least 3 points to calculate a curve. So it makes the smoothest curve among 3 mathematical points. And if you use 4 or 5 or 6 points, it'll make the smoothest curve between those points. Now, this is a very difficult one to comprehend. I find it very difficult to do. I'm constantly having to do it 5-10 times to get it the way I want it. And I'm not majorly a fan of this particular one. It's nothing to stop you from doing it. You may get it way quicker than me, but we'll go through it anyway. So we'll show you that one. This is probably the second most important command after this command right here. After our selection tool, the one just below it is this tool. It's the edit path by nodes. And what that allows us to do is to edit any shape using the nodes. We can move the nodes and modify and change any shape. And we'll do some examples of that shortly. All right. I've put this in here, and you will use it more than the students for sure, because you will have access to your computers. We had 10 to 17-year-olds last night, and they didn't have access to save in the folder, the templates folders for their computers, because their parents were using it on their parents' account or whatever, or they were on a school computer and they didn't have access anyway. So there's a lot of ifs and buts with this one, but I'm going to show you how to save a template. And obviously, you know the importance of templates. If you're reusing the same size of file, you don't need to be creating layers and creating different thickness for lines on the layers. So you can create these templates where you can use all the time. Now, for me, I'm just showing you this right here. I'm going in a different order. I'm going File. I go New from Template. Instead of going New, I go New from Template. And I've saved the first 3 most common things I use here. So this is the full spectrum laser I have. And I use the universal laser system as well. That's the one in the Fab Lab. And the 300 millimeters or approximately 1 foot square sheet that we're going to use later on today. So it's a possibility of saving that. So all I got to do is select it, and it opens up my new file. Double click, and I've got up my 300 by 300 one. So I don't have to worry about it. It's right here every time. So it's much quicker than going in and changing the document settings all the time. And again,
Tim, I don't have those options here.
Yeah, you don't have them because you didn't save them yet. You have to create it. So I have the instructions here on the PowerPoint presentation. So you're basically going to create, you set the file to be the right size you want, and then you save it, file save as, I did 300 millimeters by 300 millimeters, and then you have to save it in this location. And this is what the tricky bit is. So mine would be C, users, Tim Vaughan, app data, roaming, Inkscape templates. So you have to save it in that folder. So you may have to do a search for the roaming folder on your computer. You may have to find that. It may be slightly different if you're on an Apple. I don't know if either of the two of you are on an Apple. But on a Windows computer, this is the route that they have the templates folder saved. Now, there are 2 templates folders. Of course there are. But this is the one you have to save it in. Now, it will open that. Now, when I open the next file here, when I open the default, if I want the default on my computer, my Inkscape is the, I think it's the A4 page, or maybe it's the letter page. I can't remember. But if you want to change that, say you want to have a 24-inch by 12-inch page opening up every time you launch Inkscape, you can do that as well. And the instructions are here. So we're not going to do that right now, but all you got to do is follow the instructions. If you're not getting it, please email me and I'll help you through it. I'll pop on a call and help you to get it. But again, the important part of this one is, this is the location of the template, the default template. All right, so you have to save it in this location. So you're basically replacing Inkscape's default template with your default template, and it will show up every time. So you can imagine the uses of this if you're working in a laboratory or in a workshop all the time. You can have the same files, or you can have a certain number of files popping up each time, saving you to do the modifications you would be making all the time. So I'm just going to move on from that one right now, but it's there on slides 9 and 10, and you're going to get this at the end of class. All right, assignment 2. So I'm going to draw this at the same time as you, but we're going to draw a freehand shape, one freehand shape. It doesn't matter what they are. One triangle and one Bezier curve shape. And then we're going to use edit path by nodes to change the shapes. And then we can use path union and path difference commands to convert them, the 3 shapes, into one. All right, we can add color and vary the stroke thickness. Again, if we would wish to, again, you may decide to or not to. That's a personal choice. All right. So back to Inkscape. So hopefully you're having a go at this. And we'll draw the freehand shape first. That's the easiest one. Okay, so here is my freehand shape, and it's right here level with my star. Click on it, and then basically it's a pencil. So I'm holding my pencil down, and I'm just drawing the shape. I'm going to try and get it to join up. I can't see my cursor because of the star, but I draw a closed shape. There's my shape. Right? You can draw whatever shape, and again, how accurate you are with a mouse. So there's nothing complicated about that. It's probably like Microsoft Draw and some of the other simple programs that are around. Now, the more complicated ones are the straight lines and the Bezier curve. So I'm going to select the straight line Bezier curve option right here. And if I want to draw a straight line, I just click, move my mouse, click again. I'm not holding down anything. I'm just clicking, moving my mouse, left clicking. I'm going to try and get it to match up here. I can't see that. There we go. So I got it matched up. So I've got 2 shapes drawn. I'm just going to move those up a little bit just to give myself a little bit of space on my sheet here. And I could fill those again if I want to do. If I want to do other stuff with it, you can do that as well. And again, that's not crucial right now. But we're going to move on to the Bezier curve. So it's the same command as last time. So I'm just going to click it, but this time I'm going to click one time and keep my mouse pressed. All right. So as you click, oh, sorry. It's going to draw a curve between a number of points. You select the curves as you go along. Excuse me, sorry, I have to get some water. All right, so I'm drawing a number of points, and the computer is calculating using math formulas the best curve between those points that I click now. Let's see if I can grab the end of it. No, I didn't. I missed it. I think it's pretty close. So I've just drawn a shape, and I've missed the end of it here. So I missed the end of my line. So which gives me a perfect opportunity here. So I'm going to go to this command right here. So I'm going to select my Bezier curves object that I drew, and I'm going to go to this command right here. I said the second, probably the second most important command, the edit paths by nodes command. So once I click that, it pops up these little squares and little diamond shape commands. So I'm going to zoom in for that, and you'll see I didn't join the 2 points because I couldn't find the cursors, but I can click on those commands and I can delete it. I can delete them, or I can move them. So I can delete the parts, or I can move the parts. So if I want to, sorry, I'm just going to get rid of the cursor shape if that's okay, because I can't actually see what I'm doing with it. So now I have the little red, I move it over here and it changes to the red, and I can drag it. So I can change the shape of my curve by moving that node. All right. So I can change it, and you can see that the computer is calculating the curve based on that. All right. So I want to join this one over to this node. I missed it again. All right. So I can join the shapes up, and I can have a completed shape. All right. So you can select any of them. So even the straight line one here, I select this one. I can click edit path by nodes. So I can do the same thing. I can modify this shape exactly the same way. I can even modify this one right here. And as you gathered from this one, there are thousands of nodes, right? Because we did a freehand curve. I'm going to zoom into it. You can see there's nodes all over the place. But you can modify them. You can just drag them and move them, and you can change the shape. So when I zoom back out, I can modify pretty much anything. So this command right here, if you draw a shape and you mess it up, you can modify it really, really simply. Now, for you on the laser engraving, and I know both of you will use a laser engraver ultimately, your best use of this feature is on text. You can convert text to a path, and then you can modify the letter. So say you type in, I love Inkscape. You can create it as a path, and then you can edit it. And then you can change the letter I, and you can make it bigger or taller or longer, or you can change it individually. So you could move the letter I up. You could move the letter downwards. K could be up. You can extend it. You can change the letters and extend and make your own font. All right. So that, now, again, that goes into something where you're doing design, and ultimately that's what we want here. So go ahead and play with that. I'm not too worried about the colors, to be honest, but you can certainly go ahead and, sorry, I should have stopped sharing the results there. That was bad of me. So the next one here, I'm just going to launch that poll. So when the two of you are drawing the shapes, and you're used to using the edit by path, this command right here, let me put on my cursor again, edit path by nodes command. So go ahead and do that. So just practice for a little while, take a minute or so. I've been, as I was telling Greg, I was on 4 hours of news coverage today. I was doing a beekeeping thing for ABC News, and I am my voice is nearly gone, so I apologize for that.
I think those. No, I'm not getting those lines, but I think they're tangent lines, aren't they?
Correct. Absolutely, that's exactly what they are. So you can
But
modify
now those
them.
aren't showing up on mine.
They didn't show up. So
no, I can drag the shape around and change it, but I don't have those tangent lines.
So they do show up. If you grab one of the nodes, see the way the tangent nodes are here now on mine. So I've just dragged the tangent. So I double clicked on it. So I double click on the shape, and the nodes have shown up again. And then I grab one of those square nodes, one of the square ones, and you'll see a little blue line that comes from it. It's a difference between the square ones and the diagonal, the diamond ones. So you should have the square shapes. They'll have the parts attached to it. So I just clicked on one of them, one of the square blue shapes here. And it has these blue lines. And you can move those, sorry.
Okay.
Get it back again. You can drag those handles. You can alter them around and move those handles and change your angle. But you're right in what you said. They're tangential to those lines. The best tangent or the best equal distant line between those tangents is the computer can manufacture. And again, I can see them. I can do them. They're a lot of trouble for me. It takes a lot of time to get them exactly right. And sometimes you're just as easy draw a weird shape and then manipulate the nodes that you want. To be honest, is how I do it. And you'll see an example I'm going to give you shortly. Because it's quite difficult to use them, I find. And again, as we're going through this, it's just trying to make you comfortable with the commands, how to use them. And if you look at the top bar here, you'll see a lot of the options that are available to you. You know, you can make the select node a corner. There's different options. Make it smooth, make it rounded. You know, how many segments you want the lines into. So there's different options up here, and that's the little top menu once you have highlighted the nodes. So once you're in the node, edit path to nodes function, there's a lot of those there. And again, it takes a lot of time, and I'm just going through the basics of what it is. You know, that would be much more complicated. So I'm going to end this. I'm going to share results, stop share, and close that. All right, next slide. Sorry, wrong one. Now, challenge one. This is something I'm going to try and get you to do yourself. I'll talk a little bit about it. So I've got two little, a thought bubble here on the left and a speech bubble on the right. And the reason they're classified as such is that you've got the little, you know, you have a little picture of somebody here, maybe with the thoughts arising from their head, the little circles coming up from their head and say, what do I think of Inkscape at Nova Fab Lab? And then the other one is a speech bubble. So it's actually a line and it's pointing and it's saying, you know, it's given the difference between the two. Now, the reason I showed this one is because you can make, this is just like a picture of my kids here where they're in a photograph, and underneath it, engraved out of the photograph insert, is just brothers. So it shows you that can be engraved out. Now, you could have just as easily have a photograph with the insert with the top of it pointing to somebody saying something, oh, I like this scenery, or isn't it beautiful, or whatever. So you can have personalized items. You could do this on a key ring or whatever you want to put it on. You can have a little saying pointing to somebody's face. All right. So we're looking at you drawing a cloud. And again, you only have to draw one. Now, if you have time, you can do both of these, but remember, we're going to copy it. You can either clone it or duplicate it. So we don't have to make things complicated for ourselves. We're going to draw one of these shapes, and then we're going to copy it and make another one. And then we're just going to edit the one on the right here, edit path by nodes, and just drag down one point down and make it to a point. And then this one, we're going to leave it as it is and draw 3 circles coming from it. Now, ideally, we want to create 2 layers, right? Good practice is to create 2 layers. So you can still draw your circle on one layer, and I hope you're drawing it right now, but you're drawing your cloud shape, and that would be on one layer, and you just create another layer and call that text and put your text onto that layer. And now, again, I don't care about the colors. I don't care about the size of the font, or you might put one word in there. You put your first name or something. I'm fine with that. Whatever it is just practicing using it. Some ways of drawing it, you could draw it freehand, little curve freehand with your mouse. You could draw the Bezier curve. That would obviously take a little bit more time because you have to get that right. Or what I did actually with this one, I drew one circle. and I copied it like 10 times and I placed them over each other and I just did path difference and I subtracted the circles from each other and I was left with a little curve, right? Curve shape. So there's numerous ways of drawing it, and I'm sure graphic designers will tell you they'll have it done in less than 30 seconds using the Bezier curves because you're used to doing it. And it's all how much you practice and how much you use this on a daily basis. I don't use it on a daily basis. I use it when I need to, when I want to laser engrave something. And 99% of the time, I don't use the Bezier curves. 99% of the time, I don't use the freehand curves. I'm using shapes. I'm using simple shapes and not even complex ones. And so I'm just going through the process of how you can do this as well, all right? So go ahead and practice this. We have 7 or 8 minutes left. We got about 8 or 9 slides. The rest of the stuff is going to talk to a little bit about how to convert it to laser engraver. So we're just bang on schedule right now. So take a minute or two to see if you can draw the cloud shape and see how you get on. And I'll all right, so did you complete challenge 1? All right, so again, take your time. You don't have to finish it up right now. Somebody got it done. That's awesome. All right, so it's just drawing. And again, you know yourself. You can practice this later on. You can practice it tomorrow. It's just practice drawing it. But this is something that I like to have because you can always give it as a present to, parents or kids or a friend where you have a picture taken of them, and you could even create your own, say, emojis or little avatars or whatever it is. You can have stuff coming out. So yeah, look, it's a wonderful little thing. I like it, and it's useful for laser engraving. Fantastic for laser engraving. All right. You could put this on a wedding cake, for example. All right. Sorry. You could put this on a wedding cake or a cupcake. This one right here, the saying on it, because all you got to do is put this on, laser engrave the outside of it, and so vector cut the outside and just raster the inside, raster the text, and you've got a shape. And you've got a little speech bubble on top of a cupcake for a birthday or whatever it is for a kid or grandkid or son or daughter or whatever. All right, next command. Object to path. And now we're getting close to the what we need to do for laser engraving. This is what I talked about for text. So once you input the text in there and say you want to convert the text, you want to modify the text, you will have to do this. So basically you select all the text, and then the object to path is on the path. It's on the top toolbar, path, and then object to path, the first one. And it will convert it to a path, and then you can modify it. And I like doing that because I like changing some of the letters of the font. Maybe you want to make the first letter of your initials of your name, etc. You want to modify those, and you want to give them a little bit of a slant, or you want to make them a lot taller or something like that, just to individualize. And it is pretty cool when you do that. So that's object to path. This one is useful, very useful. It's the group command. It's where you want to copy it. And I did on Inkscape 1. And a lot of this is working on Inkscape 1 and Inkscape 2, building up on those things that you've learned there. But this is very crucial. So in Inkscape 1, you drew trees on the lake. So there was a little road and a lake. And we drew a tree with a kind of a brown rectangle base for the bark for the tree, and then the green circle for the top. And if you group those together, you can then copy those quickly, much quicker. They're joined together. You don't have to go separating it out. So the example being this one right here. So I have the one star selected. I can hold down the shift key. I can select the other one. And then I can object group. So now the two of these are in one group, and you'll see the rectangle around it. And I can move them together if I want to move them together. All right. Or I could clone both of those. So I could, I can make multiple copies of those, and they'll stay that distance apart, and that ratio or whatever is moved. So there's loads of things you can do with the group command, and it's very, very useful for certain things. And again, it's just holding down the shift key on your keyboard. All right, to select the objects. and then grouping them together. You can ungroup them as well. So right there, sorry, I apologize, I didn't show that. So here's my object. If I clone them or I move them or I do something to them, I can go object and I can ungroup them again. So now they're back into their individual states, and you can modify individual ones or whatever, right? So it's just a quick way, an easy way of copying, you know, if you've got 50 dots or something like that, whatever, there is functions for it. All right. Preparing files for laser engraving. And this may be where yours slightly varies, Eric, I believe. And we'll discuss it afterwards when we finish the recording on this, so I can talk to you more about it. But they do vary by manufacturer and hugely by the software driver that runs the laser engraver. All right, so these are the settings that we can use in the Fab Lab. Now, some of the other guys that are using it use slightly different settings than me. I prefer to use the 0.1 PT. It's the most consistent, is the one that I use the most. Some of the others use 0.01 and 0.001. Now, they're using Adobe Illustrator, and Adobe Illustrator is a much higher quality graphics, I believe, than the Inkscape. So if I do 0.001 millimeters on Inkscape, I can't see the line, so the object disappears for me. So I want to draw something that I can see, and again, it works. So this is when I talked about the template function. This is something you could do as your default template. So if you have a laser engrave at home, I would definitely recommend this, Eric. So you create one default template. You create 3 layers in there. You call one layer vector cut, or you can do it for shapes or text or whatever you want. One layer for vector engrave, and the other one for scoring. Now, most of the others don't use the scoring one. I like it, and I'll explain why in a minute. The vector cut has to be red. So when you draw an object here I have it set up here, I'm just opening up a file. So I want to draw an object. I'm just going to zoom back. I'm just going to draw a square. I'm just going to click here to stroke paint. I'm just going to say it's red. It has to be red. So it has to be 255, 00, 255. So it has to be red. And I'm going to turn the fill off on this object, right? I don't want the fill. So right here is my object. So it's selected. There's my object right now. And the stroke thickness on this one is 0.265. Right here, it's showing 0.265. I got to change that. I can leave it in millimeters and go 0.01, or I prefer just to change it to point, and I make it 0.1. And when I do, you can just about see my red line. I'm not sure, can you see that? I'll zoom in. When you zoom in, it's just a super skinny red line. And when you zoom back and full-time zoom, I'm not sure if you can see even my cursor, my star is right exactly bang in the middle of that square. So I'm not sure you can see it, but it's there. So it's difficult to see it. And so I got to select it as a red line. Now, the laser engraver will then recognize the color red and the 0.1 as the cutting numbers. Now, that's the way we have it set up on the universal laser cutter. Now, I believe you can change the colors. My full spectrum laser, I can choose what to do with a particular color. That is not available on the universal laser we have. So I can make 10 different lines, 10 different colors, and I can assign a function to those in the full spectrum laser. If I want to engrave, so in other words, it's not cutting all the way through, I have to make a black line. And again, it's the same thickness, right? The lines, the stroke is the same thickness. We want it to be that size because the laser engraver, the thinner it is, otherwise it kind of burns it out in a pattern. If I were to make this shape right here, my square shape, if I had a fill in it, where it convert from no fill, if I put it back to a fill, if I made it blue, if my fill was blue, it would basically make that a dark gray. So you know yourself, you've seen laser engravers working, I'm sure, both of you. So you can see that it will just burn out a dark blackish color. It'll burn the wood or burn whatever you're doing to make it look like blue. You're not going to get blue out of it. You don't get yellow. You don't get orange. It's just various hues of gray or shades of gray. And then this one here is the vector scoring. Now, I like this one personally because as an educator, teacher, middle school teacher, as well as doing the Nova Fab Lab stuff here, sometimes you want to make something that's developed. So you want to make a paper airplane and you want to bend it, or you want to make a piece of origami, or you want to make some kind of little fancy design or trinket box or whatever out of cardboard that you want to bend. And you can use, we've all seen those little cardboard cutouts where there's a little scored line. It's a little dash line that signifies where you bend it. And especially on something like this on cardboard, if you score it a little bit, so it goes as deep as the vector engrave, but it doesn't go all the way through, you can set up different types of lines on here. So you could put a dash line in there and you could score it a little bit. So when you fold the paper, hey, it's going to give you a really nice bend. So I like having it. Do I use it a lot? No, but it's still a very nice function to have. And again, it's a blue line. So I'm choosing a blue line for that. And the Universal Laser Engraver does recognize that. So if you're printing off something that needs to be done on the laser engraver in the Fab Lab, you could choose those colors. Now, this is just a remember on this. I would definitely recommend the layers. The layers are fantastic and it does bring them across really well. It organizes what you're trying to do. It keeps you and your drawings coherent. You can turn the layers on, you can turn them off, you can lock them, you can unlock them. So you can keep your drawings and your material safe. And we want to convert the objects to paths, to modify them. That's one of the things we like to do. Now, with images, not as much. Images are fairly straightforward. You just insert the image onto your drawing and it will, it'll laser engrave it as well for you. And we'll talk about that in Inkscape 4 a little bit, maybe after the class if some of you have questions. But that's the process for that. And this is just a picture I had here of what we did in Inkscape 2. So in the Inkscape 2 session, we created this little jigsaw piece and we put text. So we put the jigsaw piece on one layer and we put the text on another layer. And what I did was I just opened that file. I went back into it and I changed the engraving or the vector cut to red and 0.1. And I've changed the font here to black and 0.1 PT as well. So now I could just save that file as an SVG, email it off to the Fab Lab and somebody will print it. Or I could bring it there myself on a flash drive and print it out. So it's as simple as that to do it, providing you have the settings done correctly. Now you don't have to remember these settings. Where are we here? You don't have to remember these settings as I'm giving you the PowerPoint. All right. And again, it may vary slightly for your laser engraver Greg or yours Eric. So it may be slightly different. Next one. So this is what it would look like. So I talked a little bit ago about the speech bubble. So I converted what we just saved. So you could do exactly the same, change the actual bubble itself to red and to 0.1. And then on the other layer, I changed this font to black and it's the paths. And then I just save the file and send it off. And these are the procedures for saving the file. I'm gonna a little bit over. I know we started a little bit late, so I'll just go with it. You wanna save the file as an SVG, scalable vector graphics file. And this, for what we do in the lab, you save your file as an SVG on Inkscape or Adobe Illustrator. It doesn't matter. They're both standard for both of them. And then when you send us the file, or when you send the technician the file, they just open Adobe Illustrator. And then they open your file and then just hit print, and it prints it to the driver for the Universal Laser. And then you can make modifications. You tell it what material you want. If you want cardboard or wood or acrylic, you have to do those settings in the driver for the laser, and it just hits print from there. Something like this, maybe it'll take less than 5 minutes to cut it out and engrave it. So it's pretty quick. The challenge I had, and this is the second last slide, and again, we'll go through questions afterwards, as many as you want. The ultimate challenge, I like having an ultimate challenge as like kind of the homework to go away with. Some ideas to make, create on a 300mm square sheet, personalized luggage tags, a personalized notebook cover. So here's a notebook cover, with the binder, and you could just measure the distance of the holes. All you have to do is draw one hole and just space them equally apart using the tiled clone. And you can make a personalized notebook, and you have the notebooks that are half this size here that you could use as well, or a desk nameplate. So you have a little piece of wood that you have for your name, Mr. Vaughn, Mr. whatever, Miss whatever on it. So you can have a little nameplate or for yourself. So those are just some suggestions to do